Hi, everyone, and welcome to the TimingResearch.com Analyze Your Trade, episode number 175 for October 5th, 2021. My name is David Kosmeter. I'm the creator of TimingResearch.com, and today we will be discussing your trade ideas. So we are recording this at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and today I have arranged for Norman Hallett to join us, and the option professor is back to moderate, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to him.
Okay, great. Hey, everybody, we got Norm with us today. The market's had a big turnaround today, so that was nice if you're long. And obviously, we're going into the end of the year, so there's a lot of things to talk about today, and we got a lot of stocks that are very interesting, especially in the fact that they're in a lot of different industries. So it'll be really great to hear what Norm's got to say as far as what's going on out there. Before we get started, Norm is going to give us a little background on himself, and of course, a little bit of background on what's going on with the disciplined trader. And Norm, take it over.
Thank you, Jim. Let me look behind me, see what my background is. I grew up actually in the option industry, and it was too complicated for me. I spent 8 years running an option firm before there were exchange traded options. But I fell in love with futures because it was a little faster and a little bit more leverage at the time, and it didn't require me trying to understand how premiums went down, even though when the market went up. So not that futures sometimes makes as much sense, but I've concentrated really my career on the futures market, although I have some experience in stocks, as I hope to explain, demonstrate here today, because really a chart is a chart and so on. I've spent really the last almost 20 years of my career focusing on the mental and emotional issues of traders, helping the thankless job of shaking traders into reality, and that's to wake them up to the fact that it's probably not their trading plan that's causing losses, it's them. And that only 1 in 10 traders generally shakes out of that and decides to work on themselves to run their plan without hesitating to pull the trigger, without lifting stops and so on. So that's what I'm into. And part of that is about simple trading plans. And so I've got something called simpletradingplans.com. And I'm going to look at the stocks today with an eye toward my favorite and most recent simple trading plan, Loaded Gun. And I'm going to show you how that works with all of these stocks. And my opinion is largely, will probably be at least partially and sometimes largely based on that analysis. So let's get going, Jim, and we'll make it.
All right, let's knock them off one at a time, and then we'll get some time to go over some of your more intriguing ideas that you've come up with on your own. But let's start out with Netflix, part of the FANG complex. And FANG has not been doing so great, but I haven't really been following Netflix. So what do you see on Netflix? Looks like a good day today, huh?
Yeah, you know, I laughed when I saw this because, anybody owning Netflix after today, I don't know how you can say it's not a hold.
Yeah, exactly. This stuff's making all-time highs.
You can put the timing mechanisms in here. Can you see my arrow when I do that, Jim?
Yeah, I do. Looks great.
You can see the swings.
I wish all my stocks had that little cadence that you have, up and up and up.
Yeah, swing. But I want to show you I'm going to show you just a second on what the analysis the first thing I look at is for a particular, this right here, this small red spinner, and this extension through the 8-bar exponential moving average. This right here is the trigger. This looks like a loaded gun. This is the trigger we're shooting up into the sky. This is the barrel of the gun. And here is where we pull the trigger if it goes to the 8-bar exponential moving average. And when that happens, you look to the north in this particular case, and you can see what happened quickly after that. But let's and in general, here's an opposite. The gun is pointing down. I have no sense of the tails, just the body. Okay. Yeah. And we had some action on the downside before we had a modified version here where it went higher. But my point is that in general, you're looking at a market that's still got legs. And we talk about this every time I'm on when we talk about these green lines are where bullish moves tend to stop. The momentum tends to stop their retraction. So if this is a bullish move here and the market comes down, the fact that we ended in this between 40 and 50 and it traveled here, you'd look for the upward movement. Now here's a nice trigger right here in that loaded gun kind of look. And we have now these lines up here between 80 and 90. This is where a bullish move will run out of steam. So in a really bullish market, you're going to see a market hold its own here and stop correcting in the bullish side, and then move higher and come down, stop correcting, move. As you can see, it got overbought here and caused a movement lower. And now we still have some room to the upside. I mean, this is a good looking stock.
Yeah. And what do you call it? Back in January, it got extended by about $100 over some of the long-term averages. So if that was to happen again now, we could go up as high as 680 on this run. You see that January thing?
Yeah, that January run.
Because I mean, obviously, the first thing you'd be nervous about, people are saying, buy, sell, or hold. Well, I mean, if you don't own this thing, coming in at this price would take a certain amount of courage, although it does look like it wants to go higher. And your belief is when you get that big loaded gun there, it tends to matriculate even higher after that.
Yeah, tend to go to one. Now you have to look around. I mean, in this particular case, looking at this, you have a recent high here. So, and then you have, but you see how it respected that high in here. But then once it broke out here, this was easy money from here to here.
It might be something that could, under certain circumstances, have a pullback towards 610 or 620. And maybe if you wanted to enter, that might be a little better place to enter, you think?
I agree. Again, if we, as we look back, we're now playing with that old high. I mean, new positions. I mean, there are better places to establish yourself than at these kinds of highs. But yeah, I mean, in general, trading technology or technology, is this what is this? Technical. Wait for a pullback.
Yeah. And like I say, the RSI is telling you there's a lot of real estate between overbought. So that's a good thing. But that doesn't mean for a day or two you couldn't have a shakeout and then basically go back on the bicycle. Yeah.
And I think that, this
maybe like it did back in August.
You can almost measure this, these swings. I mean, I think we've got a little bit left in here, just looking at how markets can be orderly if you have a stock like Netflix. I mean,
have they announced something like their earnings where the subscribers have gone through the roof again?
I don't know. I don't. I don't
subscribe to Netflix, so I'm not a good person to really give any kind of a feeling for this. I mean, obviously there are a lot of people who subscribe to it, but not being one of them, I don't have any skin in the game that way.
I know Sirius sent me a postcard saying they were going up $1 every quarter now.
Okay, so maybe they're getting some juice because they plan on hiking prices. Like everybody is taking advantage of that thing. There's inflation out there. Well, we're going to hike prices. Doesn't sound weird. You know what I mean?
Well, and it didn't take much to break the recent high. I mean, once we got over this area, this was followed through.
Because they still got a ton of subscribers. So even if they got $1 more out of them, that would really juice their revenues.
No question about it.
Yeah. All right. So it looks like a pretty good stock, obviously, today. Now we've got Palantir, the big data company that has a lot of government contracts. I think maybe with the debt ceiling and all that talk, maybe some of that hit this stock because maybe the government won't have as much money to spend on these contracts with these people. But supposedly the data they provide is all this stuff against anti-money laundering and all kinds of stuff like that, terrorism. So, yeah, this thing looked like it was off to the races, right, Norm? And then all of a sudden they pulled the rug out. Is this a buying opportunity, you think, or what do you think?
Not quite. I think I think if you were scaling into a buy, you could start at this level. But I think you could get some shares in the 21, 22 level too, which is really not far from where we are. It's only $1. But it looks like there's a lot of interest at a price just about $1 below here, and the issue is breaking here and seeing $18. We don't know where this is going because we've got a close end double top here, and then you have our trigger on the bottom side, small body followed by and extend the barrel of the gun through the 8-bar exponential moving average.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I should say is that, well, here's another trigger on the north side. You can see where it challenged here. So you got to kind of look around. Here's one right here where you know, I don't want everybody going out and just looking for this trigger and starting to trade it, because there are things that you have to do. For instance, right here, yes, we went through, and yes, it's we have a small body followed by a barrel, but we're right inside an accumulation. This isn't where you would want to short. This may be right here.
Yeah.
You have a top here. You've got the small body, the barrel through the thing. Really nice run. When you're wrong, you're putting your stop above the formation. Therefore, if you sold here, you'd be putting your stop above here, and therefore, you know, when you lose, like right here,
Pretty minimal.
well, right, let's see, right here, yeah, it's minimal. This is a trade you may not take, because you always have to measure your, even though this is a small body followed by a move through, you've got to measure your risk. Plus, you're going against this top. So you got to look around. You know, it's not a trigger that stands alone, but it can stand alone, but not in the case of most charts, because you have other things to consider.
Is the white line a 10-day moving average, or what is that?
It's the 8-day, it's the 8-bar exponential moving average.
Okay.
And yeah, in this case, 8-day, but it works on any time frame. Some people that are now trading this exclusively, you know, I first introduced the whole idea of loaded gun and some of the rules that we have. We call them nuances, where they fit certain trader personalities. Again, going back to my contention that traders need to control themselves. And if you have an ADD trader who has a system that takes a lot of hoops to jump, they're going to rush into trades because they need the action. So there's certain ways to handle yourself and to handle trading with what we call nuances. But you can see here, so I would say, you know, this could be an area if you like this, and I think you'd have to.
I mean, if you believe in the company, but if you think interest rates may go up and that these deferred earnings of a company like this, and they bought a whole bunch of very, shall we say, progressive companies as well, that probably might even be pre-revenue for all we know. So they, not only are they that type of company, but they've also bought many other companies of that genre. So that could be a way on this thing, because you notice once yield started to rise is when they started to crack this thing.
Yeah, and you're seeing prices that are literally 40% below where they started out this year.
Yeah.
So you know, this is a stock that, you know, on the other hand, you've got a long accumulation here.
But there's there's a reason why it stopped around the 30 number, because that was the low back here in February, huh?
Exactly, right in here. Yeah, you know, there were better stocks, I think, to look for something short term. But I think if this was part of an overall portfolio and you like the looks of this stock, I don't know what the P ratio is or whatever on this, but if everything else looked good, I mean, you have a bailout price right here.
Yeah,
it's not far from where you are. So you know, there's not a lot of danger here, but you know, lightly played, good stock.
Yeah, this thing has gone in favor, out of favor, so it's kind of a rough racket.
Yeah.
Next one on the list is CF.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm falling asleep looking at this stock.
Yeah.
CF Industries Holding. Do you know much about this?
No, but I'm going to be telling you about it in a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, the chart speaks for itself, which means whatever they're doing isn't much.
Yeah, and you can see, you know, this could be, I'm going to look back. This, I was going to say, and I think I may be right about this. This could be a gigantic piece of topping action.
Yeah, they are an industrial distributor and manufacturer of fertilizers. So if the soybeans and the wheat and all that stuff.
Can I say oh shit on the air? Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
But this kind of action, where you have, this is a triple top playing around this bear resistance area, where this is where a bearish move, again, we talked about the bullish before. These red lines between 45 and 55, or is it 55 and 65? I'm looking at glasses. It's been so long since I drew them in here. Yeah, 55 and 65. the market plays momentum-wise between there, and it's a bearish market, it will tend to stop correcting on the north side and come back to reality on the south side. And you can see it's been pretty consistent there in here along these tops. I mean, this is a market that I wouldn't care. I wouldn't be in this stock if I were. I mean, the good news about it is if you disagree, you could put your stop in $2 below here and be out of it. The only problem, it would almost have to be on a closing basis because everybody and his brother is going to be doing the same thing. It's one of those things where you can get a move like this, where this right here, where everybody was taken out of all these stops up down here, and then the market decided to rally only feebly. But these are not big moves. These are dollar moves. This is a dollar.
Yeah, I mean, it is basically, but it had a big run. The thing went from during the crash, it bottomed out at 20. So it was a triple off of a year and a half ago or so. And so that's a nice move.
I'm sorry. Hold on a second. I'm looking at a 10-minute chart here.
Yeah. So the reason people are interested in this is because if they bought it last year at 25 or 30, they doubled their money. Now they're probably wondering, is this thing going to keep going? And it could, but like I say, in the last 6 months or so, well, no, it's had a good spike even in the last.
I mean, this is now I'm looking at. I got to apologize to everybody. I thought I set all of these up as daily charts, but apparently I had a 10-minute chart.
Yeah.
But you're looking at a major accomplishment here.
Yeah.
I don't know what the news is, but
well,
again,
fertilizer, probably maybe it follows John Deere, maybe it follows Caterpillar and those kind of stocks, and maybe the price of agriculture. We've had a pullback in agriculture, but this stuff still looks pretty strong. And shortages is the key, right? All around the world. So maybe there's a shortage of this fertilizer stuff out there that's going to keep a bid underneath this thing too.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this stock here now that I'm looking at the daily, I would say that whoever wanted to analyze this stock probably was wondering now that it's taken a nice move up here above the old highs, and we've had two sideways days. I find, again, this is the 8-bar exponential moving average. When we move this far away from the 8, we usually get some sort of a pullback to the 8. So I don't know that I would add in here. But it looks to me as if we're going to fade into the 8. Another one of these, 2 more here. I mean, this is a nice looking stock. We're a little strong on I will say that I think it's a mistake to look at a stock that's above 70 or 75 or 80 and say it's overbought. I think that when you see this kind of sideways movement at that level, it just could mean strong demand for another leg up. So,
but your RSI is in the zone where you might want to hedge, and I'm sure the call options a little bit out of the money are going for pretty good money. And if you took that call money and bought puts, at least you'd put parameters around your stock. Maybe sell a 70 call and buy a 55 put or something like that.
No question. I agree with you.
Yeah, and then at least you're putting parameters around it. Wouldn't you say that 55 neighborhood should be a pretty good support because of all those highs that we saw back here in May?
Yeah, that would be what the technical 101 would tell you right in here.
Yeah.
And it's where former resistance becomes support. And I'd love to know what. Not that I care in the technical sense, but it would be nice to know what caused this spike here.
China's having trouble with their soybean situation because of these rolling blackouts, because they use some kind of power that they haven't been able to use. So maybe the news out of China that things are getting a little hairy in their soybean area.
I think it's probably more that and of course South America. Brazil's having a terrible crop, and that's really where we compete for China to buy our stuff, really, just to that degree.
The former high on it over the last 20 years occurred back in 2015 ballpark, and it was at 70. So you're not too far away from the all-time high of 70. You made a run at it here. The high so far on this run has been 62. So the ones that are extended, it's hard to really obviously if you own it, you might want to hold it. If you're concerned about it topping out, you might hedge it. But if you're new money, it's hard to come in with new money on things that have already extended and have had, and that are that far away from their averages, right?
I mean, and this is a 50% move, in literally 3 weeks. But I think it's important to note all of these small bodies in a row. When you see this kind of accumulation, you can draw a trend line down here. There's a lot of reasons to like this market in here, especially right here.
Yeah.
You have this and a pull back to the 8. And you notice we're not closing below the 8, but this right here, this is a very strong buy signal with respect to what's going on. So very nice stock.
The last time you had the RSI up here in May, it had a drop, and then the rally was so lagging on the RSI that divergence was tremendous.
Yeah.
And it really went into a very nice long skid after that. So being way up here at 78 or something, that's a rough neighborhood to start initiating a position.
Yeah, again, if you were the owner, I think you could, I would watch for, as long as we stay above the 8 here on a closing basis, 2 in a row.
Yeah.
I think if you close twice below the 8, then I think you should think about taking your profit, assuming you got in this area. All right.
Yeah. All right. Next on it is Mastercard, and the consumers like to spend money.
Make sure I got the daily. I do. Okay.
Yeah. Let's not get the 5-minute chart. Some people out here might have a longer term horizon. You never know.
I do. This, believe it or not, right here, I looked at this early. This did break the 8 right here. So here was a perfect trigger on the short side, double top. These are the perfect triggers. Perfect. These are the very high probability triggers. In this case, on the short side, you've got a shooting star followed by. I'd like to see this a little bit bigger, the barrel of the gun. But the fact that we're against the double top, this was money that they were giving to us from the standpoint of loaded gun and a lot of other analysis. We're in a little bit of a mess here. We seem to be testing this 340 area. We did it once, we did it twice. I think we're going to have to see what happens. I don't like the fact that we closed on the low today, especially after this total engulfing pattern.
And consumer confidence has been slipping. If that is combined with retail sales slipping, that would be very bad for something like this, right?
Yeah, and here's a trigger that actually didn't work out, but sometimes you have delayed reactions. But I would be very careful with this stock. This is Mastercard, because you can see that you're dealing in the same area. I mean, I bet you if you went way back, this whole this 360 area, is an area that that's important to get.
Would you say we start closing 360, 361, jump on the conga line? If we can't do that, leave it alone?
Yeah, I think you want to be on the other side of the 8. For the way I'm analyzing things here. Yeah. And and if you got there relatively quickly with a nice candle, nice green candle that closed above against this triple bottom, what would then be a triple bottom against an area where you would want to see a bullish move hold or bullish possibilities hold. In this green area, I think you notice how it held nicely here. Yeah. And then they didn't have much of an extension. But I mean, I think there's a lot to be looking for here, but this is danger, Will Robinson, this kind of action.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And but the next couple
if you start blowing out 340, where's the net,
Yeah, and I think there's so many things that can happen. This is the kind of chart where a new trader would say, "Well, I'll buy here, and I'll stop it out at new lows." And what they'll do is they'll get stopped out in the market at 50% of the time or more. Will pull right back, and then I'll get texts that say they had my name. My name was on the stop, and they saw me. Technicians know that we're all under here, so I think that if you're not in it, it's a waiting game. But what I'd love to see and what I like to see in situations like this to see another small body here where there's an indecision, followed by a nice move higher, giving us that trigger. So wait for whatever trigger you're using, you know, and I think you're going to wind up seeing a lot more success.
All right, the next guy up is C Limited. And, you know, all these stocks have had big runs. I mean, if you look at C Limited back during the crash was at like 20 and 30, and it's up, it went to 360. So to say you're early on this one would be a little bit ridiculous. But
yeah, well, here's another, this is one of those triggers that we're looking at, small body through the, doesn't matter which one's lower, you know, you just have the indecision. This is like, and I originally thought of this from being on the floor and everybody going to sleep during a daily period like this, followed by everybody screaming their heads off the next day. And so this is the picture version of what happens. So when you see that, there's a lot of energy, usually leads to a run at least as big as the barrel. In other words, a scalper would be looking to take a scalp right here. But right now, this market looks like it's making a nice normal correction. You know, it's not viable yet to me because we're on the wrong side of the 8. But you know, look at all this accumulation here. You know, we could be heading here easily enough if the market continues to look in the stock market. You know, listen, Tuesday is the counter day. We know that. Having the market up today is, you know, nobody should be whistling Dixie. But I think that's probably
this company is founded out of Singapore. It's a consumer internet company. And they have a platform consisting of digital entertainment, electronic commerce, and digital financial services. So that's the type of company it is. And obviously it's had a big run, but it's if it's in Asia, is it going to be affected by a global slowdown in China? And is it going to be affected by, you know, other things in the region that could be problematic? Because the emerging markets haven't looked great. And the China market doesn't look that great as far as their, you know, economic numbers are really slowing down. So
I like the positioning of the RSI though here. It seemed to be in a nice spot, you know, but again, the jury's out on this. You're going to have to let the market tell you what to do here. But if I'm an owner, I don't think there's a reason to sell. But I wouldn't, you know, this is the accumulation that this whole, and I usually like to draw a line right in the middle of, like, let me put it in here, horizontal line, something in, you know, where the top, we see at bottom here, what was the old top. This is the area where this 290, 295 area would be an area where I call it a day if we got on the other side of it. But again, you've got a lot of accumulation. That's what happens to a stock like this when you break it down. It generally doesn't dive, but it'll eat your heart out with action like the sideways action like this. I don't know, but it could survive right here. It looks to me like it's got a pretty good chance of coming right back up. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, it probably has a lot to do on how the rest of the year is going to play out. If it's a bull market going into the end of the year and things start shifting, you know, this probably has. But that 360 number looks like a pretty good high point, huh?
Yeah, I think so too.
You know, I got longer term charts up here that have long term averages in the 120, 170, and 260 range. Yeah, so there's real estate underneath if they break it. You know. Wow.
I mean, there's a lot of stocks that look like this. So we're in a new frontier.
Yeah, and let me just see. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. I mean, it's a company that's having a pullback. If you owned it, you probably wanted to not get underneath 300, right?
Right. Well, especially not 290. So
yeah. So that's pretty much it. Let's see if the next one. This is one that was way up and it had a big pullback. And let's see. Do you see this thing turning maybe on a break above 34, or what do you think?
You know, this stock.
A lot of people love it because it's a copper deal. You know?
Copper, you know, and you know, when you talk about roads and bridges, I don't know why it's acting quite like this. I know that the copper price has been kind of pretty similar to this. It made huge highs, and then has faded in the copper price recently, got up to $5 and is now trading in the low fours in copper. But you can see how resistant it is to going much further down than right here. Again, here's one of the situations we have a top here and holding those bottoms. You know, I'm a long-term bull on copper, and therefore I'd probably be friendly toward looking to accumulate not far from this price. We're getting a little bit of positive energy here by not breaking down. It's still, you know, slow demand, but not horrible demand. It's below the halfway point. But, you know, I just think that once we get the infrastructure built through, I think this could come to life.
Yeah.
You know, this is just a gigantic pennant here. But it's also a gigantic head and shoulders top.
Yeah.
So you can make what you want of it, but I do think, and you can see that during the day, this stock doesn't, you know, it tends to stay where it is. You know, it opens at a price and it kind of likes that price throughout the day. Look at all these small bodies. So it's something that you won't find out intraday. It's going to open one day, one way or the other. But I wouldn't act. But this is one. You know, I would wonder where this could be a great option play, especially on the north side, because it looks so toppy, and yet, you know, holding this bottom, I think is a key. But you could.
Yeah, holding $30 pretty much is a must do, and then closing back above 36 would and 34 and 36. That would kind of get you where the winds of change would really start blowing, because, you know.
Yeah, 36 would break this downtrend line, and there'd be a lot of good things here.
Yeah,
but you can see where it's not. But from an option standpoint, what would you suggest that people who
if I really love the company, I would probably sell a 30 put and then buy a 36 call and probably go out about 6 months and close my eyes and hope that
or even further out of the money. I mean,
yeah.
I think you know, this is the kind of thing they could have, especially if Democrats push through you know, a major bill.
And if the calls are cheap enough, you know, you got to price them out. It's amazing. You can go out on a 2-year option and find out it's not very much more money than a 1-year option.
Right.
So the bottom line is you could replace stock ownership here with limited risk calls. And then if the thing opens up at 22 for some reason, because China is in a recession, like their numbers are saying, and the infrastructure bill is not $3.5 trillion, but it's $1 trillion. And it's going to take 10 years to implement, then all this pent up demand that they thought was coming might not be there, you know?
Do you do much with leaps?
Well, yeah. I mean, like I say, I price them all out. I look at charts on a 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, 20 year basis. I look at options on a 6 month, 12 month, you know, 3 month, 6 month, 12 month, 2 year basis.
Yeah.
Because again, it's just uncanny how you can see that longer term options don't cost that much more than the near term sometimes. And the whole thing about the buy side is running out of time. So if you can put more time on the clock, that can't be a negative.
Right.
So.
And you can hedge along the way if you have issues. So that's good.
Yeah, kind of like what do you call it? The Patriots, when they hit the goalposts, if they could have put more time on the clock, they would have been better off.
God. That was the biggest thud in football history, wasn't it?
I was on a plane and I had a shriek when that happened, and everyone was going, "What happened? What happened?"
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the people who were watching the game knew what I was talking about. You know,
you can't do that on a plane.
No. All right. Well, what about? I think this is Mosaic, which I think is another agricultural stock, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, this is a nice saucerish looking thing from, you know, if you're looking back in the last few months. Here you have that trigger that we talked about with the loaded gun, where you had a nice move downward. Similar.
It looks like CF and Mosaic is either telling us that there's going to be a squeeze in the agricultural market for whatever reason, and it could be because of what's going on with China and their energy, And if there is a squeeze, obviously you want to front run it by going into CF and Mosaic, which they seem to have already done.
Yeah, here's the soybean chart, which is really not showing that same kind of.
It wasn't, I didn't, I was looking at it the other day. I was expecting to see 13, 14, and I'm seeing 12.
12, yeah, and you know, we were as high as that 14,
Yeah.
beans in the teens.
But you got the green bar there. Is there a turn coming?
You know, not enough. It's sometimes these are the best shorts as it's approaching the 8, but doesn't break it. You know, on a closing basis, it's all about the closing basis. But this is a topping looking chart. So I'm not sure what's. I don't know that it's the grain. There must be some pretty good. You know, the thing is that the cost of grain. You know, this is a company that it's in. You know, I'm not. Don't really know Mosaic. You're saying the agricultural?
Yeah, they're in the agricultural business, but
you know, that's what happens when you have shortages. This could look good for them from a profit standpoint, and you know, causing this kind of a move. This looks like a flip chart of what I just showed you. But you know, we're coming against these highs. Let's see what it looks like here. These look like these may be all-time highs. It's pretty, at least for the last.
yeah, they're in the fertilizer deal, just like CF. So
Yeah,
obviously that's why, and they're located in your lovely area of Tampa, Florida. Not your area, but Florida. They're in Florida.
Yeah, we broke new highs. I think you get a lot of buyers in here. I think this is one where you wait for the pullback, and then the re-break. That would have some legs, but I think we're deciding what we want to do up here. And of course, this kind of thing, if you get that big bar, that red bar that moves through this would wind up being a short on what I look for. So we'll see. But there's nothing much to say about the stock unless a good job if you've had it for the last couple of
Exactly.
weeks.
Yeah, you're onto something for sure. And if you had a pullback, it'd probably be the better time to initiate anything else.
Right.
The next one, I love the name of the stock, although I'm not an expert on it. Datadog. I love that name, Datadog. Well, they're a tech company, and
Well, dog seems to be, what is that? Doji? What is that? That Bitcoin? It's something about a dog that everybody.
Doge.
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 I thought David was sleeping. Yeah, Doge. Yeah, that's it. Datadog. Yeah.
Datadog, though, is a cybersecurity, I think.
Is it?
Well, it's a very interesting chart because you know, these bodies are very controlled. You don't see, even on good days, you don't see, you know, this is marching higher. This is well, do you have any you have the paragraph on this company?
Yeah, I mean, basically they're saying they provide monitoring and analytics platform for developers, information technology, operating systems,
Yeah.
and the cloud. So they're more cloud, it looks like, than cyber, but maybe they do cyber too.
You know, that doesn't surprise me. This kind of, you know, they say that in the gold rush, the guys that sold the shovels, they had a much more consistent business. You know, and you know, these people support a lot of other companies, and that's the kind of chart that I'm looking at here. When growth is strong, this is what you get, a nice march. Look at how it stayed on that side of the 8-bar exponential moving average, just marched right up.
And companies have money to put into investing into things that monitor their entire technology stack, because they have been making profits, right? Mm-hmm. So a guy walks in and pitches that we have this ability to show you real-time insight into your company's technology. You probably could walk away with a sale in this environment because they have the extra money to look into it, you know? I
would be very careful, and I would not be buying this stock here for a couple of reasons. This is one of your favorites, Jim, this deceleration of
that's not very good.
Momentum with an acceleration of price. That divergence is not good. Followed by one of this right here, although it may not look like it, it's the largest daily range, you know, since May. And you know, there seems to be some energy building on the short side, where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 5 out of 9 days, a little bit of a majority where the market closed below the open. But I don't like this. This is a similar form of the trigger that we look for here. And this is a minor version of that trigger near this is a very, this is a market that could come lower. I mean, for me, everything is a speculation, but I would not be buying this market here until it proved to me it wanted to go higher, because of this divergence and the fact that we're getting energy on the south side. So
and it's a fairly new company.
Yeah.
It hadn't been around all that long.
I'll be dogged. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, right now it had some resistance at 145 and some support at 135. So it's kind of in no man's land right here, isn't it?
It is.
In a 10-point window, and the 10-point window really hasn't resolved itself yet, has it?
I know this may sound, but once we broke the 8 on the wrong side, I need to see 2 closes above in order to get bullish again. And we have 1 close today. This is 1, and then bearish 1. And, we come down tomorrow and break these lows. I think we have a chance to fill this gap here.
Yeah, because this had a big move today. One of the moving averages I'm working with is around 138.50. So if it stays above 138.50, that's a good thing. And staying above 140 and change is another good thing. So those are 2 numbers that I would use those 2 numbers if I was in there to keep it on a short leash.
Yeah.
The RSI on it is looking like it could go because it's at 53. So it was lower a little bit around 50. So you have an increasing RSI down there. That's not a negative. And if you can get above and you stay above the 138.5, 140 area, and then you start taking out 145, you're probably onto something.
Yeah, I mean, this is bullish. I just keep looking at this divergence. But when you play around between this narrow range and the 50% area, you can almost throw out the RSI. I just think for the price action is showing me we could have some. I think this is a dangerous stock right now, at least for the next couple of days. I want to see what happens. Next couple of days, I think for the stock is critical. We'll see.
Well, the next one's called Iron Source. And they're a software company backed by a venture capitalist. And they were founded in Tel Aviv. And they have subsidiaries around there. And so basically, this is a global software company. And I don't know how long they've been around either. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like they've been around since about 20 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is a stock where this is a 50% move from here to here and a 25% drop in literally 2.5 weeks. But look, here we have a trigger here from a loaded gun stand. We had one here that fizzled out, but you notice we have rules around what happens when you have 5 or 6 days sideways like this. But here's a reversal of that. So you have a movement higher. I mean, look at that. It's a perfect signal. We have a very short risk. We're going higher. Here's a reversal right here. Actually, here's one that didn't work out. We came the second time, and now we're coming down based on really the perfect indecision, which is a doji followed by a strong move taking out all these lows. But we're at a place here that's been defined as a way station. Around this $10 area, where are we right here? Yeah, I mean, even way back here. Yeah, this I don't think I even have to draw a Fibonacci line to tell you that. Look at this: 8.5, 12.5, 10. We're at the 50% level, and we look like we want to turn. If Steve Nissen was here, he'd be looking at this saying, hold on, let's see what happens, because you got an engulfing pattern here. But again, the
RSI there is kind of kicking off 40, but this is a lot more fun to be on when that 8 moving average is rising, like in August and September. It's a lot more fun to be in a rising RSI a rising moving average environment than to be in a declining one and then getting on the hope train that it's going to turn around.
Yeah, and look, I mean, this is, generally when there's this kind of distance between, but you had a peak here, and the last peak didn't measure up, was kind of telling you be careful. And you had a double top with our trigger here. This could have been easy money from that standpoint. But I think this is one where whoever owns the stock or was considering it, this is a good stock to ask us about. Not that we have an answer, but I think my answer would be, let's see what happens over the next few days, because we're at this 10 seems to be a place where we should hold. We're holding here, according to Hema and her RSI in this area, although she'd probably shoot me for some of the things I've just said about her take on it. But we could go back up here. But again, it's going to have to prove itself. I would not want to see it break this 9.5 level here. It's a stock that could have some. This is the kind of stock that could really take off if it works.
But it generally flattens out before it takes off. It doesn't take off out of the blue.
Yeah, well,
in other words, you had a nice little bounce above the moving average there back in July, and then it farted around there for a while, and then you had plenty of time to get in, and then you could start seeing it up trending, and then you made some money.
Yeah, I mean this Fibonacci retracement of 50%, which is it really a Fibonacci number? 50% is not a Fibonacci number.
No, I never thought it was.
Yeah, well, but they put it on every Fibonacci chart, and it seems to hit it a lot. So
yeah, no, I think there's some merit to it, but I don't think it has any Fibonacci origin.
Yeah, I don't either.
The next one is Generac Holdings. That's where you can get hot coffee and warm milk when the lightning storm hits you. So it's a generating generating company, and very popular, and they've done a great job. This thing's gone through the roof very nicely. The question is the pullback over at around the 380, 400 mark, or is there more to come?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, this looks like it may want to spend time gyrating between that 460 and 380. I mean, it's held nicely in this in the area where a bearish move or a market would stop going up if it had bearish tendencies. And now we're coming down a little bit lower, maybe a couple of sideways. Will be hitting where a bearish market could exhaust itself for another rally. So it looks, we also have, if you look at, this is right here would be our trigger, where you have the small body and the movement lower. Now, this right here is a trigger on the north side. Remember I said scalpers would you measure this body here, you take your scalp here. I like to put on 2 positions when I run this particular trading plan. I'm giving you a very small part of it, but because the initial trigger, the initial move off this body is very consistent. So I take my trigger, then I move my stop to break even. This one right here, I would have taken my scalp here, and I still would have been in this position waiting for closes on the other side. Otherwise, I would be riding that position down. But where is this going? I mean, it's right here is an area where it should stop falling for all you would think.
This company's made a lot of money, and earnings are coming up in a few weeks. If these guys come out and announce third quarter earnings were blowout, this thing probably goes back on the bicycle. But if for whatever reason the earnings reports or guidance is not great, then the vulnerability would become more. But if I was a guessing person, these guys are probably making a lot of money because they've been making money during the entire post-COVID deal. As people get more into, and of course, you hear stories, and Texas had it last year. You lose your wind, you lose your solar or whatever, and you lose your hydro or whatever. You need to have backup energy, and that's what these guys, are all about.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. Well, this is the kind of chart that they say about this is what the fundamental guys will tell you. Take a look at this chart. It can be interpreted so many ways. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 possibilities of breaking through 1, 2, 3 off the old high, and we really haven't seen any. So no side. You can take a look and see this could be a sideways accumulation waiting for a breakout one way or the other. So, the market's telling us here that's in the south right now. Nobody knows what the hell's going on. I mean, not
No.
even during the day. You're
They
not
probably want to see the earnings and see what these guys are making. Are they still making the big bucks? Because it didn't go up to 460 because they're losing money.
Yeah. I mean, there's not even any fade one way or the other. See
Yeah.
here, you had small bodies, but it was giving us some sort of direction.
This is a lot of holders who look for sales growth and earnings growth.
Yeah.
That's the guys who buy this because that's what these guys have been delivering. Huge numbers on sales growth and earnings growth. And if that continues, then 460 down to 400 is a pullback.
How much of these people are affected by interest rates?
No, I don't think so. I think it's
Okay.
more about how many people want to have that home generator.
Yeah.
And I don't think that crowd is decreasing. And then of course, all these people who bought all these new houses, they have their household situation is good. And you see from Home Depot and Lowe's and all those guys, people do put money into their home. And one of the things you'd put into possibly is alternative energy.
Mm.
So that's, again, these guys have made a lot of money. That's how they went up like this. If they announce the third quarter earnings are going to be very strong, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see anything under 380 and you maybe even go up to 440, 460, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I think this is a tradable market, but not on a daily chart. I think the intraday trade is.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's a come line bet.
Yeah.
Because the evidence right now is not for 480.
To be Elon Musk right now.
All right. Well, Tesla has definitely taken on all dragons and slayed them. So what are we thinking of Tesla here?
Well, it looks higher to me. Whenever I see this, where you have every day the market opens higher and closes lower, but stays at the same price. They're trying to beat this up, but they can't.
They can't.
Here's a similar where you see a lot of red where you go sideways, you go a little higher. I just
unless it's a deal where the 900's the top, they brought it down to 550. They're making a run at 900 or 850, and if that run fails, and we start getting back under 700, 650, then maybe these guys who are negative on the stock will be right. But right now, they look very right.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. It's playing with this, trying to figure out this high. We're dancing in the area where a bearish move, a rally in a bearish move would exhaust itself, and it's but this March right here and this latest action, I'm more positive than negative on this, but I think it is one that could go either way. But look, you've got a nice short range here. I think the market will tell us where it's going very shortly.
Yeah, very shortly. Probably again, earnings are going to come out, and if these guys are still knocking and they had good news, I think, on sales or something. I didn't exactly get the news on it, but somewhat recently they had some news out there that was positive, and that's where it got that big bump from 720 up towards 780.
And this is in the face of all these other companies coming out with electric cars now.
And that Lucid has a battery. I guess some of these companies are getting batteries that are more powerful than Tesla. When I hear stuff like that, I get a little nervous about Tesla.
The market doesn't seem to hurt it right now. Here's the latest trigger. This is the perfect loaded gun trigger that led to a nice move higher. In any event, even this one, even though it's negative, you would have had your scalp and then the break even. So it's a system that's working very well. Okay, let's get
a couple of airlines because there's two of them on there: American Airlines AAL and Delta. I used Delta last week, so it was pretty packed and it was good service. I enjoyed the flight. So
yeah, I mean, a lot of indecision on a lot of these stocks. This particular stock, this particular stock is looks like. Right now, again, in the next few days, I'm seeing a lot of disappointment on a daily basis with red bars. But the fact that we're staying over the 8 is encouraging after this trigger right here. But we're encroaching on this 22 area is going to be very strong resistance all the way back here.
If they announce that the COVID thing is bearing down a little bit, and they really open up the international travel,
Yeah.
American and Delta, they should blow out 25 and really run in the next 6 months.
Yeah, but look at and in support of that, you've got some nice bottoms being tested.
Yeah.
They're just a little bit higher each time with a little pop down here. This is a good looking chart.
Because if COVID's in the rearview mirror, there's going to be more travel, not less. And if they open up all the stuff that they not, then they can increase flights. You got to figure it's a good story. Like you say, it has some resistance here, but if it can hold 20 and you held on to it, I don't think it's unrealistic
I think
for the thing to really take off.
Yeah, close over 22 and a half. I mean, close over this area here.
All the airlines look alike, really. You got the Delta DAL, and you'll see.
Let's look at the
same dog, different fleas, or no? Same fleas,
different the last one. Let's put that up now. Well, this one actually, right. As far as the bottoming action, this one has expanded a little bit, but it's on. It's dealing with its own. There's a lot of interest in this area on both sides. You can see all the selling that occurred in the past at this level. And we're kind of there right now. So again, it's another stock where I think a big piece of news is send this one way or the other.
And these guys have figured out how to borrow money for no interest, and they've also learned how to become lean, mean machines. And so if we get a turn in their business, this stuff used to be at 60 to 65 pre-COVID. And you get a big bang in travel, and you get a company that has operating leverage now because they don't have all these crazy expenses they used to have. You could get a big bang out of these airlines. So I would, unless you think there's another wave coming and we're going to go back to lockdowns and all that kind of stuff, if we're not going in that direction, the airline's path of least resistance should be to the upside.
Did they feed you on the plane?
Yeah, well, that they did there, but I took another airline on another part of my flight, and if you wanted toilet paper, it was $50. You know what I mean?
Well, if they fed you, I'm bullish.
No, they fed you and gave you drinks on both Delta and on JetBlue. I didn't take any American, but like I said, I think Delta and American do better when people are going to Europe and people are going to faraway places too, not just domestic,
Yeah, I mean, cases are coming down. It looks, the problem is that, in winter, everybody's supposed to be indoors and whatever, the unvaccinated.
That's why you growing up back east, you have a hard time believing that most people that are going to get the flu are going to get it in July, August, September. I think they normally get it November, December, January.
Right. The change of season, right?
Yeah. All right. Next guy up is Docusign. So you don't want to go see the doctor. Just no, this is Docusign. You need things signed. You just do it online here, and that's not going away. And it's had a big drop, I think. So maybe the tide is turning.
I'm going to have to see a little bit more, but you can see. Yeah, I mean, I know you're looking at this, Jim, right down here.
And it's a catching a falling knife still, but
the thing is, again, I like to see it over the 8 twice. We haven't seen that yet, so I would be I'd be waiting with bated breath, for even if you had something, you have the indecision here followed by this big bar. This might not be a trade for somebody because of the risk, but it did work out. Here's another signal where you had some accumulation, but then the indecision followed by the movement through the 8 leading to this. It's a very consistent way of looking at it if you have patience. Indecision through the 8, a nice move up here. So I would be waiting here. Here's one that failed. The question is, would you take this against these tops, and so some wouldn't. I wouldn't, because you don't see the capability, you don't see the potential like you see it here. In any event, I would remain, neutral to bearish until it showed me more. But I think we have some.
But it is technology people use. But if the valuation makes no sense, then it doesn't matter. Yeah,
it is one of those. Stocks, businesses that would resist a recession or any kind of movement in the economy. So I think this is a good stock, I think, for people to have in their portfolios for the long term on decent corrections. It's kind of modern, and yet it's it's important. It's needed. And it's the leader in there. These are the leaders.
Exactly. and it's in a lot of big ETFs. As we come to the top of the hour, Norm, I think it's real important that you explain a little bit about the disciplined trader and what you're doing for people over there, because you're doing great work, and also how they can get a hold of you so they can find out how they might benefit from the stuff you're doing.
Okay, but whoever put this NetApp.
Okay. There was one more, right?
There's just one more, and then this looks toppy to me. I think there's no question here that a move to 84 is something that is more in the cards than new highs at this moment. But again, I'd be watching that a break of this this 88 level, would tempt you to this gap. So this is a fairly, this would be, if I was teaching a class on technical analysis, I'd be using this chart. And I'd be hoping that most people thought that it's negative, but wait, We'll see. What I'm about is the mental and emotional issues of trading. And so we have the Disciplined Trader site that we offer help in that area. But I've known, it seems to me over the years that I've realized that most traders would rather have a trading plan that worked worked to get them disciplined. And what we've done with simpletradingplans.com is to, if you go to simpletradingplans.com, tomorrow starts David's big event, of which I'm leading off on this tomorrow, which is on the first day, where I'll be explaining at 10 o'clock tomorrow, where I'll be explaining more about loaded gun, and I'll be talking about certain commodities, and I think it's commodities and what is it, pot stocks?
Cannabis, right?
Cannabis, yeah.
Yep. Cannabis commodities.
2 days of that, and 2 days of focusing on that with 16 different people. So I'll be leading it off, explaining more about that. So if you can make it tomorrow at 10 o'clock. In the meantime, you may want to stop in at simpletradingplans.com, simpletradingplans.com. And I've put together a discount code of 33% off if you want to write down the words fourth quarter, because I think most traders realize that if they can have a pretty good fourth quarter, they can turn, they can make their Christmas much more pleasant. So simpletradingplans.com, write down fourth quarter as a discount code if you want to move on it right away. But tomorrow will be the presentation at 10 o'clock. So thanks for having me. You're always a great foil for me, Jim, and thank you, David. Thank you, David, for having me.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Norman. Great insight on everything. Make sure people check out that Disciplined Trader, and then check out your show that's coming up. Option Professor does have a weekly market newsletter we send out free of charge. Basically, if you go to optionprofessor.com and put your email in, you could get that. So go do that. And then I'll be doing a broadcast on Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Noon Eastern time, and that's going to be on cannabis, and I'll be talking a little bit about the angle from the options, and I'll be talking about the general market, but also the commodities and the cannabis using the option market. So that'll be happening on Thursday, and thanks everybody for being here. Great show again, and I'm going to go back to David right now.
All right, thanks guys. So as I mentioned, the 33rd Synergy Traders event will be starting tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time. This will be a commodities and cannabis theme. And as Norman said, he's going to be our opening presenter at 10 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. So you can get access to that just going to the TimingResearch.com site, and you'll be able to access the live room. We're going to do 8 presentations tomorrow. So it'll be from 10 a.m. Eastern to 6 p.m. Eastern, and then 8 presentations again on Thursday. So again, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern. And as the option professor said, he will be on at noon Eastern time on Thursday. So we have another 16 hours of good education. We have a few new people on this event scheduled, and should be a great couple days of education. So just a reminder too, as in addition to joining us live, you can also subscribe to Timing Research on YouTube or your favorite podcast app to get the recordings as soon as they're posted. And I do record each of the presentations individually and then post those to the main TimingResearch.com site, as well as YouTube and the podcast networks. So, and you can also get the archives of the shows there as well. All right, so that's it for today. Just want to thank my guests again, Norman Hallett of TheDisciplinedTrader.com and SimpleTradingPlans.com, and the Option Professor of OptionProfessor.com. Thanks, everyone.